A young man from the countryside is mocked and looked down upon for being illiterate and wearing simple clothes. But when a powerful millionaire's horse is on the verge of collapse, he steps in without hesitation, leaving everyone around him speechless. The blue sky over rural Virginia looked hand-painted, but it was the ground that truly sparkled that morning. The main arena of the Blue Ridge National Equestrian Championship gleamed under the high sun, as if every speck of dust had been dipped in gold. Imported felt hats and Italian boots struck a rhythmic beat on the polished wooden floor. Crystal glasses clinked in the hands of artificially tanned gentlemen. It was a spectacle of opulence, not just of the horses, but of their owners, their families, their surnames. Luxury cars lined the entrance like models on a runway. Every competitor looked straight out of a catalog: starched clothes, jeweled belts, shirts embroidered with family crests. Amid that picture-perfect scene, a young man stepped out of an old, dusty pickup truck. He walked with a quiet gait and slightly slouched shoulders. Eli Carter, 24 years old, born and raised on hard soil, where the silence of the countryside teaches more than any schoolteacher ever could. His faded jeans were tucked into scuffed boots. His flannel shirt had frayed cuffs, and his cap, bleached and worn, bearing the almost vanished logo of Rancho Esperanza, looked like it had never left his head. He carried a battered backpack on his back and a saddle over one shoulder, weaving through glares of disdain and poorly concealed whispers. "Look at the barn cowboy," said a blond guy, laughing loudly with his friends. "Probably showed up with a broom and a feed bucket." "Did they bring the pet donkey too?" added another, nodding toward Eli's boots. Laughter spread like weeds through a cornfield. Eli just looked away, not out of shame, out of habit. He already knew that explaining himself was useless. He was there as an assistant to a local trainer, a longtime friend of the region who believed in Eli's gift with animals. He had no embroidered uniform, no fancy last name. What he did have were calloused hands and eyes that saw more than hooves and manes. He walked toward the makeshift stables. The muffled sound of hooves on hay, soft knickers. There, among the horses, he felt less out of place. He greeted a young man tending to a white mare. "Morning, sir. She doing all right?" The man looked at him like he was an insect. "Don't talk to me. You shouldn't even be here," he snapped, turning his back. Eli bit his lip, kept walking, his head lowered in respect. At the check-in tent, when he went to pick up his badge, the woman behind the counter looked down at the form filled out by hand by his trainer. The name, Eli Carter, was written in shaky, childlike handwriting. "Sign here," she said, handing him a pen. Eli hesitated. The handwriting, the spelling, the weight of her gaze. He tried to sign. His hand was sweating, the stroke unsure. "Is that a signature or a doodle?" she murmured with a mocking smile. Across the tent, an elegant woman commented loudly to another. "That's the boy who never finished high school? They say he talks to horses like they're people." Muted chuckles. Eli stepped back, thanked her quietly, and walked away, holding his badge with trembling fingers. At the edge of the stable, he spotted a chestnut horse with a small cut on its leg. No one seemed to notice. He knelt down slowly, clicking his tongue in a soft rhythm until the animal calmed. He tore a strip from the inside of his shirt and wrapped an improvised bandage. "You're okay, buddy. Just stay still," he whispered. Before he could finish, one of the organizers showed up. "You? Get out of there. This area is not for stable hands. Go find some shade, kid." Eli stood up slowly, kept his eyes low, and left without a word. That night, while others settled into hotel rooms with air conditioning and room service, Eli laid a tarp across the back seat of his truck. The still warm engine served as his heater. Outside, laughter from the sponsor's mansion drifted through the night like music from another world. As he tried to fall asleep, he heard a sound coming from the stables. He got up to check. The saddle on the horse he was helping with, Thundersmoke, was loose, poorly secured. That wasn't an accident. Someone had tampered with it. A fall like that could cripple the animal. Eli didn't yell, didn't accuse. He tightened the saddle carefully, checked every buckle, every strap. Then, just in case, he stayed by Thundersmoke's side all night, sitting in the hay. In the dark, no one saw, no one knew, but the horse slept soundly. And that, for Eli, was reward enough. The next morning, the arena buzzed with excitement. Flags fluttered in the soft breeze. The announcer boomed each entry with theatrical enthusiasm. Ladies in floral dresses smiled for photographers. Children waved flags printed with golden logos. But everyone was waiting for him. Regal Comet, a jet-black stallion, gleaming like lacquer. Every muscle looked carved from living stone. His name was whispered with reverence. He wasn't just the championship favorite. He was Mr. Donovan Rourke's crown jewel. Rourke wasn't just a millionaire rancher. He was a symbol, an unofficial king of American equestrianism. Silver hair, perfectly tailored beige suit, measured smile. His eyes followed Regal Comet with the devotion of a father and the detachment of a seasoned investor. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with a total of 8 consecutive national victories, Regal Comet and his trainer, Oscar Belmont. The crowd erupted in applause. The horse entered the arena with the grace of royalty. His hooves struck the hard ground in perfect rhythm, echoing like a shared heartbeat. Eli, standing outside the fence, leaned into a shaded corner, watching in silence. A bead of sweat rolled down beneath the brim of his cap. Thundersmoke, the horse he was caring for, was safe. But there was something off in Regal Comet's eyes. A tension, a flicker of distress. The presentation lap began. The horse made clean turns, flawless jumps. Perfect, almost too perfect. Until, on the third lap, the illusion shattered. Regal Comet stumbled. It was sudden. His neck thrust forward. His front leg buckled. A shrill whinny split the air like a human scream. The horse staggered, twisted, and fell hard on his left side. Dust. Screams. "Oh my God," someone shouted. "Vet! Get the vet now!" The crowd leapt to their feet. Rourke left the VIP box as if the ground were melting beneath him. The trainer ran. The cameras cut. The announcer went silent. 3 specialists kneeled around the animal. Checked the pulse. Hooked up IVs. Injected fluids. Nothing. Regal Comet was gasping. Eyes wide. Legs rigid. His body had shut down. "He's gone into neuromuscular collapse," one of the vets said. "Could be myopathy. Or an extreme nervous reaction." "Will he recover?" Rourke asked, his whisper taut with panic. "If he doesn't respond within 2 minutes, we may have to consider the alternative," said another, hesitating. "Euthanasia?" Eli didn't hear the rest. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He scaled the fence, jumped into the arena. "Hey, HEY!" yelled 2 security guards. "Get that kid out of there," someone from the committee barked. "Who the hell does he think he is?" a trainer shouted from the back. But Eli didn't stop. He walked with calm resolve, his boots sinking slightly into the churned-up earth. His eyes locked on the horse. As he reached him, he ignored the yelling, the chaos. He knelt beside Regal Comet. "Shoo. Easy, partner. I'm here," he whispered, so softly only the horse could hear. Eli's hands, dusty and scarred, touched the muzzle with something like reverence. The horse's eyes flickered. His breathing was shallow, shaky. Eli placed his right hand on the horse's chest. His left pressed gently at the base of the neck, on a precise point. "Easy now? Think of the open sky, the smell of dry hay," he murmured. His fingers moved in slow circles, alternating pressure and release. It was an old ritual, a family secret. His grandfather had called it the Earth's breath. The tension in the arena was unbearable. The shouting had stopped. Only the wind and the horse's faltering breath filled the space. 20 seconds. 30. Nothing. Eli closed his eyes. Kept going. 40 seconds. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Get him out of there. He's only making it worse." And then, Regal Comet trembled. A small movement. One leg twitched. Then the head. A sharp crack, like splintering wood. And the whole body shuddered. Slowly, like a great trunk rising from the ground, the horse stood. Unsteady, but standing. Silence. The kind of silence that holds its breath, that freezes eyes and hearts. Then, a soft sound. A sob. Mr. Rourke, in his beige suit and with tears in his eyes, he stepped forward, rested a hand on a vet's arm for balance, touched his fingers to his lips, nearly fell to his knees. Eli stepped back slowly, sweating, shaking, but whole. The applause began hesitantly, then swelled. Some people stood. Others stared in stunned silence. The 2 who had mocked him the day before, laughing at his clothes and accent, stood quiet now, as if watching a miracle. The vets whispered among themselves. One looked frustrated, another stunned. Rourke walked up to Eli. The young man lowered his eyes, expecting a lecture. But the old man simply said, in a hoarse voice. What you did no one else could have. Eli didn't respond. He didn't need to. The whole arena already knew. The miracle still hung in the air as the microphones came back to life. The situation has been resolved, ladies and gentlemen, said the announcer, his voice shaky, as if waking from a trance. Regal Comet is standing once again. But the expressions hadn't returned to normal. The collective breath was still caught in throats. And in the middle of the arena, Eli Carter looked smaller than ever, not because he shrank, but because the eyes now fixed on him came from a place he knew too well: discomfort. The discomfort of someone who breaks logic without asking permission. While a few stepped forward to thank him, others backed away, whispering harshly. A member of the committee, dressed in a light gray suit and wearing a plastic smile, stepped forward with a clipboard. Mr. Carter, we need to speak about your conduct. You entered the arena without authorization. That constitutes a violation of official protocol. Eli didn't understand at first. He blinked, confused. I just wanted to help. We understand your intention. The man cut in, already writing. But it was reckless. You could have worsened the animal's condition. There are procedures, professionals, responsible parties. The word struck like wet rope on bare skin. Another committee member, a woman with glasses hanging on the tip of her nose, added. There are those who say the horse only reacted due to a nervous stimulus, not because of any technique. It could have been dangerous. We have protocols precisely to prevent this kind of improvisation. Eli bit the inside of his cheek. His throat burned, but he said nothing. Silence was his old shield. That's when a voice rose from the stands. Excuse me, Mr. Rourke. Crumpled suit, hair tousled by the wind. Eyes still damp. He descended the stairs slowly, as if each step demanded reverence for the moment. He stopped beside Eli, placed a firm hand on his shoulder. This horse was a gift from my wife before she fell ill. She used to say that an animal like Regal Comet needed a free heart. Today, I saw that heart beat again. And it wasn't because of a machine or any technique. It was because of this young man. The words fell like gentle rain on dry land. If you want to punish someone, punish me. But don't punish a man for having courage when everyone else hesitated. The woman with the glasses adjusted her papers quickly. The man with the clipboard cleared his throat. No one answered. In the shadowed edge of the arena, Clara Rourke was watching. She only approached after the curious crowd had dispersed. Her cream-colored dress swayed gently in the breeze. She walked up to Eli, who was still standing there, looking at the ground as if he didn't know where to place his feet. What you did back there, that was real, she said quietly. No one teaches that in school. Eli shrugged, avoiding her gaze. I just did what I was taught. By who? My grandfather. He used to talk to animals like he was praying. A comfortable silence grew between them. Then, with a hint of hesitation, Clara asked, Have you always worked with horses? Eli took a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, he felt like sharing something personal. Not always. I've worked in mechanics, construction, but horses are different. They feel. They know when you're lying. He paused, then added in a lower voice. Once, I got arrested. Was at a ranch where this guy kept beating a race pony. No one did anything. One day I did. She didn't seem startled. She simply nodded, with quiet respect. Sometimes you have to break the right rule to save what's alive, she said, before walking away slowly. But peace would not last. That same afternoon, rumors began to swirl among the tents. A well-known competitor, tanned, arrogant, with perfectly aligned teeth, whispered softly. It was all staged. The horse was drugged beforehand. That kid just acted like he saved it. Whole thing was theater. And like all well-spread poison, the rumor found willing ears. Soon, in an informal meeting called by the committee, Eli was summoned to explain himself. He sat before half a dozen men and women with skeptical expressions. Clara showed up unannounced, crossing the room with firm steps. I was there. I saw what he did. And if you still have doubts, ask the stable hand who saw the horse get sick in the stall before the arena. Then, from the back of the group, Hank emerged, a quiet, graying hand Eli barely knew. I saw it, ma'am, said Hank. The horse was already tense before it went out. This boy here did what none of us knew how to do. Silence. The good kind this time. Rourke appeared shortly after. Not to speak, just to hand over an envelope. Inside, a letter. A proposal. Veterinary scholarship. Job at the ranch. Room and board. Support. Eli read every line with teary eyes. I, I don't know, sir. I'm grateful, but I don't know if I know how to live on that other side. I've never seen this place as mine. Rourke nodded. He understood. But before hesitation turned to refusal, someone entered the room. It was Buck, Eli's old boss. Wide-brim hat, shirt open at the chest. Carter, gonna trade a sure thing for a gamble? We're waiting for you back at the ranch. I'll give you a raise. I've known you since you were a kid. You gonna abandon your own? The room froze. Eli looked at Buck, then at Rourke, then at his hands. The same hands that had saved Regal Comet. The same hands that knew more than words. He took a deep breath. I'm not abandoning anyone. I just want to keep learning. From animals. From people. From books, if I can. He turned to Rourke directly. I accept, but on one condition. Can I study at night? I don't want to become a doctor, just understand better what I already feel. I don't want to be elite. I just want to grow. Rourke smiled. That's all I hoped to hear. And then, for the first time, Eli smiled too. Not to please, not to thank, but because something inside him, small and ancient, was finally starting to feel at home. Eli's eyes hadn't always been so steady. There was a time when they trembled at the sky, afraid of all he couldn't control, storms, losses, cruel people. He was just a boy when he learned the world didn't wait for anyone. Born on a small ranch, surrounded by silence and crooked fences. His mother, sweet and tired, left too soon, taken by a fever the countryside couldn't cure. His father, already absent inside, disappeared for good soon after. All that remained were his grandfather's hands, leathery and wise. It was he who used to say, "A horse understands what you haven't figured out yet. It listens with its body, not its head." Eli learned that without realizing it. He learned to recognize fever in the shine of a mare's eye, to tell hunger from longing by the way an animal breathed. And so, between births and broken fences, he became a man too soon. Now, years later, he was living something he never imagined, a room of his own, in a clean dormitory, books he could call his, and time, a rare thing in his life, to study. At Rourke Ranch, he cleaned stalls with the same dedication he brought to each paragraph he read. Slowly, syllable by syllable. Sometimes he got it wrong. Sometimes he fell asleep on his notebook. But he kept going. Clara watched him from afar. Sometimes she pretended she was just passing by. Other times, she brought him coffee or a book with a bright bookmark. This part here, she'd say, pointing. I think you'll like it. Eli didn't know how to react, but he thanked her with his eyes. He wrote his first letter shortly after, addressed to his grandfather, though he'd already passed. The handwriting was crooked, but his whole heart was in it. I'm doing okay. Sometimes I still feel like I'm in the wrong place. But there are horses teaching me, and people who believe in me. I'm trying to make peace with the future. He started sketching little texts about the horses at the ranch. Wrote about their temperaments like he was describing souls. Some of the writings ended up in the hands of the vets. It's not technical, but it has an insight a lot of doctors miss. One of them said, surprised. Clara, growing closer every day, didn't just see Eli's strength. She saw something raw and true. A kind of freedom she herself hadn't learned to live, caught between expectations and obligations. One morning, the ranch woke to chaos. A pregnant mare, Esperanza, named by Clara, was in labor. But something was wrong. The vet hadn't arrived yet. Eli was the first to step into the stall. The mare's legs trembled. Sweat streamed down her flank. He knelt beside her, placed his ear near her belly, and listened. Not for a heartbeat, for silence. The foal's turned, he said. If we don't help, she'll lose them both. While others hesitated, Eli asked for warm water, clean sheets, and space. He remembered his grandfather, the stories of nighttime births, guided only by instinct and faith. Led by that memory, he moved carefully, pulled gently. A small shift here, another there, until the sound they all hoped for came, a weak cry. Then, a relieved whinny. You saved them both, said the vet, arriving late. And you did everything right. I'd have done the same. Or maybe worse. Eli didn't answer, just stroked the mare, sweat on his brow and his hands still trembling. That night, sitting under the open sky, he listened to the wind sweeping the fields, closed his eyes, and saw his grandfather. Not clearly, but certainly. Am I on the right path, Grandpa? And in the stillness of the night, a memory swept in like a strong breeze. Never let them tell you how it's supposed to be. Animals feel. The land teaches. And you're one of the ones who listens. Eli smiled. A small, almost sad smile, but full of light. Because now he knew who he was. And more importantly, he knew he was still learning to be. It was the following fall when the news spread like a breeze through the stables, hallways, and verandas of Rourke Ranch. Clara and Eli were engaged. No official announcement. No gold-framed photo. Just a simple conversation over breakfast. Clara's hand resting on Eli's, a calm light in her eyes. The ring was modest, matte silver, crafted by a small-town artisan. The news dropped like a stone in still water. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others raised their eyebrows in indignation. Old friends of Clara, heirs of estates and storied surnames, voiced their concern in polished tones. "Clara, are you sure?" one friend asked, forcing a smile. "He's a good guy, but he's from another world. He won't fit in at events, galas. I don't know if he understands what this union represents," whispered another, during tea among cut flowers and porcelain. Clara listened. She didn't respond with anger, just with the quiet resolve of someone tired of being shaped by others. But the hardest doubt came from where she least expected, her father. Mr. Rourke called Eli for a private talk, under the arbor where the horses rested. "Do you love my daughter?" The question came bluntly. No soft edges. Eli looked down, then at the man in front of him. "Yes, sir. In my own way. No fancy words. But it's real love." Rourke took a deep breath, scratched his chin. "She's free. Always has been. But I know her. Sometimes she chooses to care for others and forgets herself. Do you know what she's going to face?" Eli didn't answer right away. Stayed quiet for a long moment. Then said, "I know what it's like to be looked at like you don't belong. If she has to feel that because of me, I won't stay silent." The next week, the test came without warning. At a social event for the committee, some guests laughed openly at Eli. Malicious remarks about rural climbing and a cowboy romance floated through the air like toxic smoke. Eli heard, and for the first time, didn't stay quiet. He stood up, his voice low but steady. "It might seem like a joke to y'all, but to me it's life. I come from dirt roads, water drawn by bucket, nights slept in truck beds. But I don't lie. I don't use people. And if you can't see how incredible Clara is, it's because you're looking with your eyes, not with your heart." The silence that followed was deafening. The next day, Mr. Rourke showed up at Eli's quarters. Said nothing. Just handed him a small box with 2 hand-carved shirt buttons. The ones he'd worn on his own wedding day. "They'll go well with your simple suit." The wedding took place where it all began, in the Blue Ridge National Arena. But this time, without pomp, without packed luxury stands. Just wooden chairs, white ribbons tied to iron stakes, wildflowers picked that morning. The sun still bathed everything in gold, but the feeling was different. Respect, curiosity, some familiar faces from the past, the ones who had laughed, who had judged, were there, sitting quietly, watching. Clara wore a light dress of raw linen, her hair loose. Eli wore a dark blue suit, plain, but clean, with the Esperanza Ranch cap tucked into his inner pocket. At the makeshift altar, built from old wood and flanked by hay bales, he took the mic. I'm not great with fancy words, but life's taught me a few things. I learned that time doesn't go back, but it teaches that some things are worth more than gold, but we only see them when we truly look." He paused. The words seemed to come from deep inside his stomach. The world moves too fast. People run, talk, promise, and forget to listen. But a horse teaches something different. He waits. He feels. He knows when it's true. And Clara, he looked at her, his eyes glistening. Clara is truth. Clara pressed her lips together, moved. Mr. Rourke wiped away a tear discreetly. Soft applause spread like a breeze through dry leaves. Months later, in a corner of the ranch where the grass still grew wild, a new barn was built. Modest on the outside, full of life on the inside. There, Eli gathered a group of young people. Children of cowboys, cooks, people who never had time to dream. Boys and girls, with dirty hands and bright eyes. "Look here," he said, gently patting the neck of an agitated horse. "See this spot? This is where the tension hides. But you only feel it if you're patient." He taught with gestures, with mistakes, with silence. The way he had learned. The way he knew it worked. Clara, from afar, leaned against the fence, watching. A notebook in her hands, but her eyes were fixed on him. There was no luxury. There were no trophies. But there was truth. Eli smiled at a boy who mispronounced the name of a tool. That's fine, partner. The important thing is what you do with it. The boy laughed. The others did too. And in that simple moment, between laughter and the smell of hay, Eli Carter became whole. Not perfect, not important, just whole. Not everything that shines is gold. But there are things worth more that don't need to shine. This is a story about belonging. Not what is given by others, but what is earned in the silence of true choices. Eli didn't change to fit into the world around him. It was the world that, slowly, had to make space for someone who carries dignity without degrees, wisdom without titles, and love without promises. Because, in the end, greatness isn't measured by appearance, but by the courage to keep being who you are, even when no one's looking.